I am started dating my ex from over 30 years ago after my wife died. I began dating my ex Kara when we were both freshmen in high school. We've known each other since we were very little. We stayed together all throughout school. We were young, in love, and at the time I was convinced she was my soulmate. After graduation I enlisted in the Marines, and just like the military man stereotype, Kara and I got married the second we both turned 18. Everything went smooth for 2 years, but eventually we drifted apart. It's neither entirely her fault nor mine that the relationship ended. We simply became different people and clashed constantly. We got married way too young. We wanted different things out of life and were both unhappy. The marriage ended on a bitter note. Then, a year after the divorce, we met up and had a civil conversation. We both apologized for our respective mistakes, wished each other luck, and parted ways on good terms. I met my wife Julie a few years after that conversation. We got married and had a son and daughter who are now adults. 10 years ago, Julie ended up passing away in a car crash. It was devastating. I was too swallowed up in my own grief to date for a long time. Then, 2 years ago, Kara moved back to our hometown that I still live in. She was able to get a very early retirement and had come back to care for her sick mother. She was married once again after me, but that ended in divorce as well. We saw each other at the grocery store and decided to meet up at a coffee place to chat. It ended up being a very pleasant talk and we agreed to meet up a few more times after that. We both changed and matured over the decades and seemed to click even better than when we were teenagers. We had both accomplished our different life goals that had originally caused our separation. We even ended up sharing a lot of different hobbies/beliefs that we'd picked up since we last saw each other. We finally started officially dating 6 months ago. I'll always miss my wife, but the time I spend with my Kara is the happiest I've been since her death. The relationship is still new and not too serious yet, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I can picture myself spending my last years with Kara. At first my kids seemed happy that I was dating someone again, but when they learned who it was they got upset. Something that was once a big problem with my marriage to my Julie was her insecurity about Kara. Kara was my first everything, kiss, date, etc. Julie was the only other woman I had ever been in a relationship with. This was my fault. When I talk about my childhood to my kids or anyone else, Kara was brought up often. I'd talk about how much fun we had as kids. We were best friends since preschool, so I share most of my childhood memories with her. Julie voiced her concerns and initially I thought she was just being dramatic, but after some self-reflection I realized I was being insensitive to her feelings and kinda weird. I apologized, we attended a few couples therapy sessions together, and all was well. The issue never came up again in all the other years of our marriage. My kids had seen our arguments on the topic when they were little and understood why their mom was upset. I apologized to them as well all those years ago. They said they're upset because they feel like dating the woman my wife was insecure about after her death was insensitive, cruel, and an insult to her memory. I tried to explain how I had no feelings for Kara while Julie was alive, but they hung up the phone. They've been a cold to me since and won't even acknowledge Kara's existence. Kara seems uncomfortable about the whole thing and says maybe we should separate. She doesn't want to come between my kids and I to possibly ruin our relationship. Of course I don't want that. But I really do love Kara and am finding it difficult to decide how to fix this. Comment. It feels like kids should respect your life. You didn't do anything wrong to your recent wife. You were loyal to her. I can see how this can be complicated. On the other hand, why don't they happy to see that you are happy? You have been widowed for 10 years and deserve to be happy again. Write a message to your children. Explain to them that you have always loved your deceased wife and will continue to love them. Write them what you wrote to us here. My mother also passed away and I would have absolutely no problem with it if my father felt and acted like you. His happiness is important to me. I know how he was after her death and I know that he loved her. If he is doing well in this relationship, he feels comfortable, I am the last person on earth not to treat him to this happiness. Your children don't know what the future has in store for them. There are not only negative ex-partners. Some come back after many years and enrich your life extremely. Good luck and all the best. Story 2. My mother hates my husband and I need advice on how to proceed. So to provide a bit of context first, and please excuse my shitty formatting as I'm typing on my phone. My mother and I have already had a strained relationship due to a messy childhood, abusive father, sexual abuse which my mother was aware of but never provided support or did anything to stop it, etc. Basically just a very absent mother, but she will never see it this way. Well, my husband and I met 10 years ago when I was still living with my mother, and I used to sneak him into the house while my mom worked nights. Of course she ended up catching us. We woke up one morning to her standing over us while we slept. They got into an argument with both sides throwing their shots. I don't even remember how exactly it transpired, but my husband brought up how my mom treated me bad and has never cared for me and always treated me like the live-in maid. I got kicked out as a result, 3 days before we got our keys to our own place, lol. About a year went by and we made up. We always visit, we always check in with the family, we always help around the house when we are over, we always initiate any sort of conversation, etc. So very one-sided. But we suck it up, because it's family, right? My husband has moved my mother's entire house, almost single-handedly, moved my grandfather 600 plus miles, cooks and cleans when he's at her house, done tons of landscaping, buys her thoughtful gifts, makes a point to remember things she says about work and ask about them, shows interest in her hobbies, the list goes on and on. He has done so much to try to be the best Sil. When we finally got married 7+ years into the relationship and we asked her if she'd like to come to our backyard wedding, she said, and I quote, "Sure," with a face. So we got married without her. I talked to her about this after the fact and she admitted how she understood how I must have felt and understood my decision. Since I've never had the best relationship with my mother, I always chalked most of this up to my mother being socially awkward and just not being good at relationships. 2 months ago it came to light how wrong I was. We went on a family trip for her birthday and they both were drinking a little. Again, I don't even remember how the conversation was brought up, but my husband confronted her for not liking him. She denied it but said she used to not like him, then with an anger I've never seen she said, "Yeah, you were a little shit. You disrespected my daughter, you disrespected me, and you disrespected women." Like red in the face screamed it. Situation quickly gets de-escalated and brushed under the rug and we leave early the next morning. Okay, enough backstory, I could keep writing. Let's fast forward to today. We are expecting our first baby. And we've definitely got some red flags, like crazy grandma red flags. Some of the highlights: I'm going to set up a nursery at my house, 4 hours away, and mind you, my husband and I sleep on an air mattress when we visit, so the baby can come stay with me. I already told my work I need 2 weeks off when the baby is born and I'll be there for everything. I'm still coming to see you this weekend even if I can't do everything I expected to do. Upon prodding, she responded, "I want to paint the nursery." My husband has already started painting, lol. But she's had no conversation with us about what our plans are for the room or anything. I just don't understand where she gets these thoughts and expectations. We are not that close. And my husband doesn't want a relationship with her at all that is going to be forced out of the fact that we are having a baby. He believes that our baby will end up being able to feel the tension and weirdness between the two of them. How do I even proceed with telling her that her relationship with her grandchild depends on her relationship improving with my husband? Will my husband even accept her efforts? Or just think it's all fake? How can I ensure it's genuine? Is it even worth it? Comment. Yeah, your mother isn't going to do any of that stuff. I doubt she'll visit either. She's just play acting at what a good grandmother would do. When my first child was born, my wife's mother made all kinds of promises about babysitting, etc. None of them were legitimate. Every time we asked, even when we were both down with food poisoning, she always had other plans she couldn't possibly cancel. When our second child was born after we moved to another state, she said that she'd come out to help with the baby for a couple of weeks. She was there for about 5 days, absolutely non-stop complaining and bitching about every little thing, and then decided to go home early because 1. She didn't like her hotel room, and 2. She was mad at me for staying home from work to help with the baby, because she didn't feel needed. You get to set all the boundaries. And if your mom violates them, send her packing. Your mom and husband don't have to get along, but she needs to be respectful of him if she wants to be in her grandchild's life. But keep her on an information diet. She is low contact. Tension has always been obvious. When do you want someone in your life that didn't protect you? How would you trust her to protect your child? Being family doesn't excuse you from boundaries, and it isn't an obligation to keep them in your life. You need to cut our toxic people from your life, even family. Well, yeah. But I don't understand why you're bending over backwards trying to get your husband to have a positive relationship with someone who doesn't actually want to have a positive relationship with him. Attention-free relationship, like fetch, is not going to happen. You're looking for a solution that will magically make your mother be a different person. That solution does not exist. You and your husband need to talk and decide, A, what level of contact you both actually want with her. Your husband being a doormat for your mom in a pointless effort to make her like him is not okay. If you're encouraging that, stop immediately. If him doing that mountain of stuff for her was your idea, honestly you owe him some serious apologies. And, B, you get to decide together what level of behavior she needs to maintain to have whatever contact you decided on. You don't get to dictate your mom's emotional state, you can't require her to like your husband. But every day, millions of people are polite to relatives they don't like. So what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior in this case? Decide this in advance before it happens, and also decide in advance what your response will be to unacceptable behavior. You've already got most of what you need to say. Mom, your relationship with your future grandchild depends on you improving your relationship with husband. If you can't figure out how to accept and welcome him into this family, and I mean sincerely accept and welcome him, then you're not going to see much of your grandchild. We don't need any more of this kind of negativity in our lives. So don't be making any big plans to come stay with us after the baby's born, because you may not be welcome unless I see some significant changes in your behavior. And don't count on having the baby come stay with you, either.